What's good, y'all? We back at it. It's your boy Sid with another video. I'm here to do a video on what happens when the sun comes through the sixth house, what this means, what this denotes when we have this placement. The sixth house, it tells us about health, it tells us about your daily routines, or we could say like habits, as your habits are your daily routines. It tells us about any possible health ailments or issues that you could be prone to as well. And it's also going to show us your relationship to coworkers, or if you have any employees, the energy that's in this area. It's also said that this house represents small pets as well. So the sun, of course, we've stated this many times before, but the sun is going to represent yourself, self-expression, soul, personality, ego, identity, consciousness, your vital force or vitality. It also is going to tell us about, externally, it will tell us about your pops. It's the planet that represents the father as well. And when we have the sun sign coming to the sixth house, this is a Virgo house. So this tells us that you would exemplify Virgo traits. Now, Virgos can be very organized, very detailed, very much about cleanliness, hygiene, their hygiene, their health, and staying organized on top of things, work. And Virgos can be very meticulous, very detail orientated. So it's like they see all the little keen things, as they're ruled by Mercury. You know, Mercury is intellect, the mind. It peeps out, all the fine details when we have this placement in terms of Virgo energy. Sun in the sixth house, right? What I like to do is I like to talk about professions. I would look at Virgo professions. So Virgo, like I stated before, I said the sixth house deals with small pets. So this could be you actually doing well as like an animal keeper, or a zookeeper, dog walker, dog trainer, a veterinarian. Since Virgo is very organized and detail orientated, you may do well as being in the data analysis field or endeavors in this area, being a file clerk, a secretary, an accountant, as you're paying attention to the fine details of things. Also being a car detailer, because this is also keeping things intact here as a car detailer. I've stated how Virgo rules over health, so this can show forth for you working in the medical field. As an example, when you have this placement, being a doctor, a nurse, being a psychiatrist, psychologist, being a healer of some sort, holistic healer. It can play out a lot of ways, but these are just some examples that you may be drawn to. And it's a two-way field, because I always look at whatever house we're talking about as the planets that are in these houses as also going to affect it. So I would look at occupations that deal with the sun too, and the sun rules over Leo. So Leo rules over speculation of any sort. So this could be working in casinos, like gambling. This can be working in a circus, as this is like spectacles. Working in the entertainment industry, so being a musician, actor, actress, being a dancer, being a poet, being in any position of prominence, as again, you also, you want to be seen in your work. So this could be like a government official, politician, just as an example. What do I want to talk about next? Let's talk about your pops, your father. When we have the sun coming through the sixth house, this is an indication that he was actually focused on the same area. So he would have been focused on his work. He could have been into the health field as well too. You always want to look at the sign that the sun is coming through, and that's also on the cusp, if it's not the same sign that the sun is coming through. It is situations where it could be a different sign that's on the cusp than what the sun is coming through in the sixth house. But off top, you wanna look at the signs to tell us more about possible areas. If you need further details in terms of careers associated with jobs associated, look at my videos. I have 2 of them on careers associated with each zodiac sign. I'll try to leave a link in the description, of the video as well. Yeah, look at the sign on the cusp for further indications of occupations, things that you could do for work, right? Also in your daily routines, right? If you know anything about rulership, the ruler of this house, basically, whatever house it's in, and the sign would tell us more about what you do in your daily routines as well. Let's talk about coworkers and employees. So with these individuals, being that your sun, which is your consciousness, your ego, is tied into your work and around this area, dealing with coworkers, employees, you want to be mindful that you're not making things too much about yourself, because this is the area where you want to shine, where you want to be the center of. The sun is the center, everything revolves around it. So you just want to be mindful that you're not being a bit selfish in this area or making things too much about you, because if so, this is a two-way street in these houses, to where you can attract that from your coworkers, you can attract that from your employees that you work with as well too, if you're putting out that type of energy. Now, even though I say that, at the same time, you still have to be true to yourself, because you're supposed to be the center or shining in this area of work, and that revolves around coworkers or employees. So it's a catch-22, if that makes sense. One thing, I want to tell you a little story. So I don't have the sun in the 6th house, but I remember one time a couple years back, I had a transiting sun was going through my 6th house. And I was watching a Vedic astrologer, and she mentioned how the house that the sun is going in, it could be good for vitality, or I guess you would say like energy in this area. But it can show forth for whatever house the sun is going through, that the people that are represented by this house can be a bit selfish. Now, I noticed, again, I said how 6th house is coworkers, and I noticed how when this was happening, people that I was working with, it was definitely a lot of selfishness going on, more than the extreme. And this was actually around the time that the pandemic started, basically. So at that time, I guess, people was going crazy or going out of their mind, but I noticed like it was I was being thrown under the bus. So it was kind of just and it was interesting, how this manifested for me, and what was actually going on in the sky as the transiting sun was going through my 6th house. You know what? I'm gonna tell you a little more. Matter of fact, what happened was, it was somebody I worked with. They were supposed to handle a certain job. They didn't want to do it, as they were talking about the virus, and I don't know, I might get it if I do this and that. So I had to basically take upon their work around that time, and because they didn't want to do what they had to do or what they were supposed to do. So it's just interesting how that sun transiting through the 6th house showed up, even though, again, like I said, that's not the exact placement of sun in the 6th. It was kind of an indication, a similar energy. Health issues, right? So health issues, right? The sun deals with our vital force, our vitality. It's said that in medical astrology, when the sun comes through the 6th house of health, the sun is considered to be weak, basically, here. And you want to look at the sign, because this would tell more about vitality, vital force, things of this nature. But yeah, it said that the sun is weak here, and this when it's put into this sign, put into this house. Let me see something real quick. Yeah, so in a man's chart, the sun rules over the right eye. In a woman's chart, the sun rules over her left eye. Also, your sun rules over your heart. So there could be heart issues, or like I said, that the eye factor can play a part too, when you have this placement. Now, one last thing I meant to mention was, and traditionally, it said that the 6th house rules over enemies. However, me personally, at this stage in my astrology profession, I look at the 7th house as enemies, open enemies, and the 12th house as hidden enemies. Now, as I may dive deeper, I may change that. I may change how I interpret it. If it, as I start to experiment and it starts to make sense, I may look at the 6th house as as enemies. But I just want to throw that in there too, just to give you a little more, 'cause, 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 ' information on the sun coming through the 6th house and the 6th house, basically. So that's pretty much it. Stay tuned. We got more videos coming soon. Make sure y'all subscribe. I didn't say that to this YouTube. You can like, comment below what resonates, what doesn't. I'm interested in hearing. And yeah, stay tuned. We got more videos coming soon.